Since set 12, I have been a big fan of the Shroom Salsa leader. That leader has commonly been called by myself my favorite leader in the game. But with the release of a new, very powerful promo card, it made me start investigating his set 18 cousin and see if I could use this card to bring out the most benefit in this new promo. So this Shroom Salsa leader was built with Zenkai in mind. It has a really cool awakening effect, has a very powerful backside effect, but has a drawback that kind of turned a lot of people away from it. Auto, when it attacks, you warp the top 2 cards of your deck and you top 5 search for a Demon Realm Race or a Demon God and you add it to your hand. When you have 6 or more black cards in your warp, you are able to warp a card from your hand, draw 2, untap 1, and flip them over and take life down to 6. This is usually attainable by turn 2 or 3 the latest, and that's what makes him pretty consistent. On the backside, he has that pesky permanent. The permanent says that when a card will be placed from your combo area into your drop area, move from the game instead. So a lot of people read that and think it's a huge deal, but from my playtesting, it has not come up to be a really big deal all too often. It has an auto that when it attacks, you get to send a Demon Realm Race or a Demon God from your hand to the warp to draw 2 cards, which helps you dig pretty hard as well as set up different combo plays. And then it has an activate battle once per turn that if this card is in battle, you could use a non-super combo Demon Realm Race or Demon God in your warp as a combo. That's very cool because it allows you to get out of attacks like little pesky ones without having to use the resources in your hand. So even though this leader does not draw nearly as much, in my opinion, as the set 12 leader, it does still have the ability to defend itself quite nicely. So first we're going to go through the basic cards that the Shroom Salsa decks all tend to run. We have, for our 1-drops, 4 copies of Demon God Salsa Dark King Vanguard. It's our typical top 5 searcher. But this deck has even greater utility. See, when this card is combo from your warp, it becomes a 6k combo. That's important because now, instead of just only being able to get out of 15s with, say, a random 5k, you can also get out of 20k attacks by comboing this and going to 21 from your warp. Next up, we have the 1-drop Dark King Mecha Kubora Final Battle at Hand. This card right here has Overlord. It also draws you a card and has the cool ability to pay 3 to play a servant from the bottom of your deck, which we have several that we play in the deck that benefit from that ability. Both of these cards, when they're played, also warps the top 2 card of your deck if you choose to, and that helps you to accelerate his awakening condition. Next, we have the cards we kind of want to have in a warp. So we played 4 copies of Demon God Salsa Stormclad. This is the main one that we care about because not only is it a 20k beater, but it also has the ability to warp a card from the opponent's hand. This deck has not only great removal, but also a sub-theme of hand control that I leaned a little bit heavier into when building this deck. Of course, so we have the Salsa, we also have the Shroom. We played at 2 copies because even though he is good removal, he doesn't have an on-play ability. So if you do decide to make this during your opponent's turn, there's a good chance they could clear it before he actually does anything. So he's almost your turn only. And I believe there's better things you could do with your 1 energy than playing him. But it is important to have his name because in the case of these cards, when you combo the opposite name, you could pay black to play from either your hand or warp by warping another card in your hand. Next, we have our boss monster, so to speak, and Demon God Shroom and Demon God Salsa Unending Nightmare. This card right here is a house. It has Servant just like these do, and so it's a 35k double striker that you could play for double black on either player's turn as an activate battle. The way you accomplish this is by having 2 or more black cards in your combo area. Since your leader is able to combo one, it means you only really have to use 1 card from your hand. Then you get to pay double black to play this from the warp, and on play, it has the ability to make your opponent choose a card in their hand, as well as one of their battle cards ignoring barrier and send it to the warp. Now, because it is your opponent's choice, you do take a little bit of setup to make sure they choose the cards that you want them to choose. Also, it helps to punish people who think their barrier attackers are safe and don't quite realize what this card do. Now, we also play 2 copies of Dark King Metricabura Imminent Annihilation. This card right here allows us to combo with any of our demon gods or demon realm race and the warp, the same as our leader does. He only costs 1 black if you have 6 or more cards in your warp. It also has Overlord, so combined with the 1-drop, you're able to cycle these cards. Then lastly, for this archetype or this engine, we have 4 copies of Shroom Salsa Tag Team of Terror. This card is super versatile. One of the things you could do with it, for instance, if you have to play your deck aggressively, is turn 1, play it as a 20k. You have the ability to pay 1 to play it if your opponent does not have any battle cards in their drop area, which is usually the case on turn 1. If you are able to get 4 more cards into their warp, this guy is a 1-cost 20k double striker. Now, the main reason why you play him, though, is when you combo, it counts as Shroom and Salsa, so you're able to play these cards without having to worry about getting bricked. You also have the option to pay a single energy to make your opponent warp a battle card from their drop, and then if there's no battle cards in their drop, which could happen easily early on in the game, you get to draw a card. Now, we come to the card. We have 4 copies of Toa Dark Demon Realm Madness. This card right here is a new tournament card that comes with the regional prize support. Right now it's extremely cheap because I don't think people realize just how great this card is. So to help you appreciate it, we're going to go over its skills and then the cards I use to take and maximize this card's potential. So the first thing about this card is that this card has the ability to warp a battle card on play. It has deflect and critical. When you do put it into play, you give her plus 5k, so she's a 20k crit attacker. That right there is good enough to pay 2 for. The ability to just get rid of any battle card as long as it doesn't have barrier and have a 20k crit attack swing. That's already powerful. But then it also has swap 3. So you're able to return it to your hand after you swung with it to go into another card. And there's no cost on her swap, unlike the other swaps that happened in the Deborah deck, where there was like spirit boosting and bottom decking cards from your hand. None of that, just swap. Now, that's where her auto comes into play when comboed. When she is comboed, and this is the one that a lot of people pay attention to, you could pay black and spirit boost 1 to give your Demon Realm race card plus 10k and double strike. That does not exclude her own combo power. So in reality, you're paying 1 for a 15k double strike. It's a super chopper. Now, her ability doesn't care where she's comboed from. So that's why the leader's ability to combo cards from your warp is important. One of the things that make this leader the choice over the set 12 is that you could swing, send this card to the warp to draw to, and then immediately combo with this card for 0 energy, pay black, spirit boost, and give your leader basically 15k and double strike. Now you're swinging for 30 double with your leader, which makes it very threatening. Now, we didn't want to just only take advantage of the double strike ability or even the on play. We wanted to take advantage of everything. So first, just to get out the way the double strike ability, we played this as our Unison. This is Dark King Metricabura Might Inconceivable. The reason why we play this as our Unison is because, one, it comes down really early. So you can play this as early as turn 1 as a 20k Unison, and most decks don't have the ability on their turn 1 to be able to get rid of it. Some even have an issue on their turn 2 to get rid of it. It does have a convenient +1 effect that actually works along with the deck, which allows you to bottom deck a card in your hand and draw a card. That's important, especially later in the game when you're able to set up these Shrooms and Salsa to the bottom of your deck to work with your Z leader. It also has this other cool once per turn auto that says when you activate swap, you get to warp one of your opponent's battle cards cost 3 or less. So again, it helps you to narrow down the amount of cards in your opponent's board so that when you do play a card like this, they don't have much of a choice to as far as what they get to warp. It does have a restriction on how it can attack because it does require you to have 4 more markers in order to attack with it. But it does have Empower Black too. So if you are in a situation where it's down to like they're checking the markers, you could just pay 1, replace it, get its ability again, and then have a 4 marker Unison that you can swing with and put pressure on the opponent. We mentioned the swap. There's only one real good choice for the swap, and it is actually kind of insane depending on what your matchup is. And that is 4 copies of Demon God Toa Umbral Might. Demon God Toa Umbral Might has been a card on my radar for a while. Her effect is when you play her from your hand, you would draw a card and your opponent could choose to warp up to 2 cards from their battle area or hand. If they warp less than 2, you get to gain control of their Unison with 4 or more markers. You could play this Toa, swing 20 crit, swap, and play her from your hand, which triggers her ability to do the skill. Now, of course, if your opponent does not have a Unison, that effect to warp the cards is kind of pointless. But sometimes people just don't realize up to doesn't mean like they have to do anything. They don't realize that up to could also be 0. Worst come to worst, he just a 15k dual attack that drew your card on play, so you didn't actually lose anything. And then because you bounce this back to your hand, one of your dual attack swings could be a combo of this card to make her a 30k double striker out of nowhere. In the instance though that they do have a Unison, this card's value skyrockets. A lot of Unisons nowadays are either starting out big or they get +2s and stuff like that to keep themselves around. And a lot of them are even integral to the strategy of the deck at hand. So plenty of times I have played this card after removing the stuff on their board, and my opponent has to choose between warping 2 cards in their hand or me taking their Unison. And usually they warp the 2 cards in their hand. So that's additional hand control on top of the hand control you're getting from the Salsa and the Shroom Salsa. That makes it kind of like a Sophie's choice, so to speak. Next, we have 3 copies of Mira. This is my Overwhelmer choice. We do require Overwhelm in the deck because as we comboing things and generating Z energy and putting things back into the drop, these Overwhelms help us to recycle cards back into our warp in order for us to use them again with our leader skill. Mira also comes down and rips the card out your opponent's hand, so it's continuing the sub-theme of hand control that goes along with the powerful removal already built into the deck. Now we're going to get into the other utility, which is 4 copies of Kai Negate. Kai Negate is still very, very strong. Even though you can counterplay it and kind of lose some of its value, it's still a very powerful card, and I won't play a black deck that could set up its own warp without playing this card. We have 2 copies of the Gohan Rare. If you're playing against yellow and they're trying to come in with their big body, use Gohan Rare. And a lot of times people forget this card is there. This is also great in the early game defense. I had people play against me with Majin Vegeta. They'll play the Goku, think it was sweet. And then I will combo this and warp the Goku. And now they have to find another Goku in order for them to keep maintaining value. We also played 2 copies of Petrification as part of our Negate package. Petrification is very strong in this current meta. It shuts down tons of cards, and I suggest it for anybody playing black right now. My super combos, people might see these as sus. I'm not going to lie. But I believe that this is the way that works for me. So we have 3 copies of Sun Gohan, or it's not Sun Gohan, Sun Goten Time Patrol Charity. This card right here works if you have 5 or more cards in your warp, which you will always have. So this super combo works early and often. It's always a 0-10k, which is something I love. And I don't have to worry about put to life totals that I don't necessarily want to be at because my super combos don't work until I'm at 4 or less life. Then our 4th super combo is 1 copy of Bibbidi Primeval Conjurer. This card isn't as good as it used to be since you're capped at a 15k combo power, but still, from playing a lot of Gohan Piccolo, I do know that having a super combo that's bigger than people really think there is very beneficial for you to be able to either push for extra damage or to be able to defend yourself out of a bad situation. And of course, our ultimate is Evil Saiyan, also known as Cumber. We do set up the warp very easily. We do warp cards off the top of our deck, so getting this into our warp, or even just keeping this in our hand, is fairly easy to do. We are also playing a 50 card clean deck, so we should be able to see it just about every single game. This is a lot wrapped into one. It's berry removal, is burn. It creates multiple attackers. It also is an anti-floodgate card on your turn. It just does like it all. Our Z deck also reflects our need to take full advantage of this Toa. First thing we're going to talk about is Toa Unpredictable Offense. This card came from the anniversary box, and it was meant for the Deborah swap deck. But the activate main ability to be able to play a card that is a Demon Realm race, cost a 2 with swap from your hand by bottom decking a card works best in this scenario. So you could easily bottom deck one of your Shroom Salsas that you may not want to use at the time to set up for another effect later, and to play the Toa from your hand for free. When you do so, you warp a card on their side of the board. You get to swing 20 crit, swap into this Toa, and put additional pressure on them. So this basically circumvents the entire cost that this has. What also tends to happen with this card is that because it's not this card or something else that's big and imposing, this card tends to sit out on the board. Of course, we play 2 copies of Boo. We play a copy of Surmounting. Then we have a copy of Demagra. Demagra is really good in this deck because we do lean more onto the playing cards from the warp, and we also have a light overrun package, so we can get additional removal, additional draws, things of that nature. And then last but not least, we have our Z leader, Demon God Shroom and Demon God Salsa Imminent Annihilation. We know how much I love this card. On your Z Awaken turn, you have either the greatest offense or the greatest defense ever, because you get to use your leader skill to combo a card, go directly into this card, and then combo 2 more cards from the warp. One of the great things about, again, this Toa is that you get to make a 15k combo. So you could combo a 10k plus her, and now you have plus 25k combo power, making this guy a 45. And if you happen to have combo something else right there, you are up over 50 without using any cards in your hand. So that's it for the set 18 Shroom Salsa leader. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this deck profile. So I'll catch you guys again next time. And this is VG Time signing out.